Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am going to show you this epic clash between the current world champion Gukesh and India number 1 Praggnanandhaa in the first round of Sinquefield Cup. The time control is 90 minutes for first 40 moves, followed by 30 minutes for the rest of the game with 30-second increment from move 1. Gukesh has struggled in rapid and blitz, and classical is his strongest time control. If Gukesh wins this game, he will become India number 1 in the live ratings. So, moving to the game, it started with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, which is the Nimzo Indian defense. Prague plays e3, which is the Rubinstein system. Here, since black didn't gain direct central space, white has the idea to delay castling to develop pieces and gain space. Black will usually castle and would trade his bishop with knight, saying white that I ruined your pawn structure, and then would go for d5 and c5 pawn breaks. Case opens the center with d5. Here, Prague keeps the tension to not allow any easy development for black pieces. Prague goes a3, asking the bishop what will it do. Usually black takes the knight, but Gukesh goes for pawn takes c4, bishop takes pawn and bishop back to e7, which isn't bad either. Prague goes knight f3 and then finally castle. Gukesh goes for a6 to play b5, followed by c4, so that the light squared bishop gets completely stuck on a2. Prague captures on c5 followed by a queen trade, and then Gukesh takes back the pawn. Everything is normal till now. Now, Prague plays bishop e2, which is such a deep move which is beyond understanding. The idea is that the bishop was useless in that diagonal, and now the knight can reroute via d2 to c4 and d6 and f6. The bishop could go to f3, keeping a pressure on b7 pawn so that the black's bishop can't move easily. The game goes on with knight c6, b4. Here Gukesh goes bishop a7. The engine prefers bishop e7. Bishop a7 weakens the d6 square, and the knight can reroute to c5 in the future, completely blocking the bishop. Prague goes bishop b2. Gukesh goes rook d8, asking for trade. Here, Prague plays a brilliant move knight e5. Knight can't take it because it's a checkmate. If Gukesh trades rook, then Prague gets other rook on d-file and black can't move any piece. Gukesh plays the only move bishop d7 and then white trades. Here the engine wanted rook takes knight, trading a pair of rooks as well to take away some of white's active pieces of the board. But Gukesh takes with knight and Prague finds a clutch multi-purpose move knight e4. This knight can go to c5 targeting b7 and a6 to create passage on a and b file. The dark squared bishop gets activated. The light squared bishop attacks a6. Prague is completely dominating Gukesh here, and black's position is almost on the verge of collapsing under pressure. But we all know what a fighter Gukesh is. He plays the best move knight b6, asking for trade and potentially eyeing d5, c4 and a4. Prague plays knight c5. It's the only move to keep the advantage. Gukesh goes rook a b1. Prague takes rook. Gukesh can take with rook since the pawn hangs. Now Prague plays bishop e5. Rook goes back to a8. Prague plays such a prophylactic move pawn e4, disallowing the knight to block the open file. Here, Gukesh goes bishop b8, hoping to trade the bishops. But it traps the rook in the corner and Prague knows it. He decides not to trade the bishop and goes bishop d4. Now, there can be some discovered attacks on knight as well. Gukesh brings his knight to c8. Just see how Gukesh's pieces are all shuffled up in the back rank. Prague is completely dominating Gukesh on the board. Prague brings his rook. Gukesh goes bishop d6, which is inaccurate because Prague can go bishop e5, another brilliant move. The bishop can't take it because it's mate, so it needs to go back protecting the knight. Prague plays the only move bishop c7, further pressuring the knight. The knight can't move because then the pawn hangs, but Gukesh is a fighter. He goes for counterplay and moves the knight. Prague takes pawn. Here, Gukesh can go rook a7, but then Prague goes rook c1 and then it's just a trade of knights. Gukesh plays g5 in desperation and Pragg plays a very calm move bishop f1. The idea is now the rook can switch the file, and when the knight hops to d4, it won't be attacking the bishop anymore. Gukesh marches the pawn. Pragg attacks the knight. Gukesh goes knight d4. Pragg plays a4 to take more space. Gukesh can take on b4 since it is a fork. He continues to create some sort of counterplay by f6. Pragg plays e5 trying to open the center even more. Gukesh goes knight a7 trying to activate the rook. Pragg goes bishop d6 to trade the bishops and allow the rook to move up. Here, Gukesh plays knight c6 to protect the bishop and on b4 and d5. Pragg plays the best move b5. Knight can't take the free looking pawn since the other knight hangs. The c6 knight can't move since it's guarding the bishop. Gukesh's position has completely collapsed. He trades the bishop and moves knight to e5. But now Pragg has two passed pawns. Who is stopping them? Pragg goes rook d1. Here, Gukesh goes for one final trick, rook b8. If the knights get traded, black is right on time to prevent the pawns from moving further. But Pragg, absolutely brutal and flawless throughout the game, plays the cold move knight c5. And now the black knight is hanging. If it takes the pawn, the bishop captures back, and after Gukesh takes the bishop, the d pawn can't be stopped from promotion. Gukesh resigns and Pragg wins the first round of Sinquefield Cup against the world champion. With this win, Pragg overtakes Fabi in live ratings to become world number 3. The other match which had a result was Nordrbeck vs Levon where Levon won. The other three matchups of round 1 were a draw. Sam Sabian vs Wesley So, MVL vs Alariza and Fabi vs Duda. That's it for today. Bye guys.